So, a long time ago, in one of my previous lives, I was a Navy corpsman. So, uh, I was going to a field medical technician training. Uh, that was in Camp Pendleton in California. And it was one of those, just like in the movies, yes, you do have to go through a camp, and they put you through the ringer, and you're doing, weapons training, and you're doing the medical stuff for us, and we're doing the field, marches, and you have to camp out. I wouldn't call it camping out, but I do that facetiously because that's what I call it. You do obstacle courses and such. So anyway, this one exercise was about towards the end of the training, and it was a navigation. It was a land navigation exercise. So to do this, they divide entire companies into teams, and then they set you out, and then you have to capture some flags. I'm sure, like I said, you've probably seen this in some military movie, probably something funny. Yeah, there's kind of a funny anecdote to that. And myself and another guy, there were teams of 4 for our company. And this guy was not a popular guy, and he and I had the same rank. I think I was a little bit senior, but just the same, we had the same rank. You turn off my inbox here, it's making tinging noises. So we were then with 2 other females, with one guy, myself, and then 2 other females at the next rank down, and we were at that one team. So we had our maps, and then we had the coordinates, and you're supposed to read the coordinates just like you do a GPS, or you go into that great trip, a road trip. You have to have some sort of a guideline on how to get there. And so we have maps, and we have some locations that we believe that where the flags will be located, and you want that flag. It's just a matter of pride. It's just it was up in a mountain, and it's Camp Pendleton, so it's not a vacational, it's not a vacation spot. So the terrain is kind of rough, and it's kind of like late spring, early summer, so it's already hot, and I have some spots where it's pretty arid terrain, like I said. And this guy and I have been butting heads for a while because, like I said, he's not popular with anybody. And then my luck, and I usually don't talk in terms of luck, but it just turns out that they assigned him to my team, and I thought, okay, wonderful. What else could go wrong? And I should know better than to say that, so I even think it. So this guy performed exactly the way I expect him to, hard-headed, and then he insisted that we were towards the end of our search for this one flag. We just needed that one flag. And I had already been through land navigation courses before, but I told him, look, what we have to do is go straight ahead. We have not paved roads, but these are, they're like dirt roads that goes around the mountain, and you just follow these trails. These are well-established trails. I was pretty sure that there wasn't going to be some sort of a trick on us where it was going to be, the flag would be placed someplace where it was unattainable. It could happen. You have to fight for it if that's what you want. But at any rate, given the coordinates and the direction we were going, I really believe, I strongly recommend that we go, proceed forward on this dirt road. And so our guy insisted, no, it's downhill, is down over there. And I forget exactly how he pointed, but it was not where we were headed. But he had to get off the mountain. And I said, that's stupid. But the problem was that I could just establish some sort of a coup, just me and the girls, we could just take off and just leave you here. But one of the rules of the game was you have to stay together. You couldn't just accomplish one person out of the 4, could not just accomplish it and come back on their own. This is not a personal accomplishment. It was a team exercise, sadly. No, I would never go to combat with them. That was a long time ago. None of us are old enough to be drafted or taken into combat unless it's World War III or zombies attack the earth, maybe. That guy would not make it. So in order not to break up the team, I relented and said, look, I know for a fact, we just keep walking straight ahead. That flag is going to be there. He said, no. So pointed in direction down the hill, and was covering the sides of this mountain. I call it the briar patch. So this terrain was even worse as it is, because it's either covering cactus, or it has some other like, I call it briar patch because I don't know what the vegetation was, but it all had prickly appendages. Let's just say that it was a painful descent to back on the main ground, and then that would lead to another road that would lead us back to the camp. So there was much discussion, and finally we're running out of time. We need to get going. We all had to work as one, so he insisted. And like I said, just breaking up the group was not the objective of the exercise. So not in my style. Normally I would just take off and prove somebody that this is how it's done. But this is one of the few times where I just stepped back and said, you know what, let's just prove this guy wrong. So just feeling deep down in my heart that we're not going to the right direction, we started to climb down this thing. And yeah, that was a briar patch, and we were getting pricked by every cactus or just some sort of prickly vine. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's the whole thing. The whole mountain's covered in it. This brush was painful. And one of the things that I have to note is that this idiot didn't even complain. Like, he was just climbing down. He was really short. He was determined. I mean, he knew deep down. And he was not a guy who was very vocal in class anyway. So he was not really voicing himself. But the other two women, the lesser ranked, they were just like whining the entire way down. I was not finding it pleasant whatsoever. I'm senior to them. And I'm doing quite a bit of my usual, cursing like a sailors do. I know that didn't sound very good, but I'm okay. So we climbed down the stupid thing. We were just, our uniforms had just covered every single square inch of me. I know had some sort of a prickly thing attached to it that was just poking through the fabric and to my thighs and my butt and my back. And you had to keep going. I mean, there was no point in just stopping and recovering from that, because we're covered in vegetation, just trying to weave through these plants, and it made the descent a whole lot more difficult than it should have been. And otherwise, we'd have had to go back the way we came to come off the mountain. That didn't seem logical, but going forward was the only way. Like I told him, we get to the bottom. And we crawl out from this brush. We covered in just prickly things all over, and it's aching, and it's not life threatening or anything, but it's pretty damn annoying. And so my two counterparts they drop to the ground, and they're facing each other, and they're just hugging like they just been through hell and back. It was kind of hellacious, but not quite to the point where they were hobbling like little children and sobbing uncontrollably. Like I said, I'm glad I never went to combat with them. And this was towards the end of our training, and I never would ever have to see them again, hopefully. I mean, the world is pretty small, especially in the military. But this guy in particular came down, and I'm just standing there just really irate, really to the point where I really wanted to scream, and just I was pretty angry, but I was holding back. Then he seemed to be unfazed by the whole thing. The one thing that caught me was he looked up to his left shoulder and looked up top of the mountain where he just came from. And he said, "Oh, what do you know? The flag is right up there, right where you say it was." And every instinct I had, survival, told me, don't choke him, don't choke him. I was a reservist then. I was also a police officer in normal life, so yeah, you can't just go around choking people. It flashed into my mind for a split second. But my rage was pretty high alert. Like, if you don't, I gotta do something. I gotta let it out somehow. So So I say, I told this guy, I looked at him, I'd say, you're only alive right now because I'm letting you. He got a little offended. He said, what's that supposed to mean? You see those two? By the way, these two women were still just crying and just complaining, just being really, really unprofessional, but really just not prepared for anything. And I was not prepared to have to follow someone that's stupid, that's so hard-headed, but this guy at least has some guts that, he pursued it. He was totally wrong. I mean, he could have let some people into dangerous, really even deadly situation if you broke it down in those terms. But he kind of looked around, and I pointed to them, and the women were still crying and not listening. We were within like 10 feet from them, and I didn't whisper. I just said very softly, now all I have to do is go back over there and tell them what you did. And given their state of mind, I'm just going to walk away. I don't know what they'll do to you. And then he got really quiet. Didn't say anything else after that. After that, we did not talk at all. This guy just, I don't want to go on and on about how not useful this person was to be around. And how he's just not pleasant to be around, and it was like almost like a non-entity in class for the most part. He just kind of went through the motions, and if he got anything that was good for him, he was fine. So he never really had much of a mentality to work with others. And some people do sneak in through some of these professions, and they're able to somehow survive. I have to laugh about it now because I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I had no way to find an outlet at the time. And we went back to camp, and everybody was on. Somebody else talked to me and about how we did, and kind of got a little disrespectful, and I got a little snappy, and I said, don't ever talk to me like that again. And that person walked away quietly. So I just want to sit here and I was kind of feeling sorry for myself because I like to win. I don't know about you, but I like winning. But I also like to be able to engage in a smart and targeted discussion with intelligent people and figure out a problem. I like to solve problems. My instincts told me and some experience told me that we were going in the right direction initially. But then you have to go by some ground rules where you cannot control what's going on around you. To have seized the flag on my own and claimed it as my own and then come back, nobody wanted to follow me. You have to, I talked about risk last week, and that was a risk that it's a game, it's a mind game, but in real life, the mind, plays these games with you and how it shows up in your life. So we all went our separate ways, made it through the training. They never knew. The other two never knew. I never told them. I should have, because they would have given him a piece of their mind. But it's after the fact. It's done. It's the thing that happened, and it's over. I still had a lot of prickly things on my uniform for a while. Even after I washed it, I still will find like a little something, cactus nail, whatever it is. It was pretty annoying, and eventually I got over it. But later on in the day, we got back to camp and we went back to the barracks and showered up and got into a clean uniform. And I'm still pretty angry. I was hanging on to it because I couldn't just let it out, start screaming at people and all that. And it's not conducive to discipline as much as we'd like to do that sometimes. And I eventually was talking to a young Marine sergeant who was one of the staff at the school, and he asked me, how was your day, Doc? And I just proceeded to explain to him that little incident up the mountain coming down the Briar Patch. And his guys got really bright, really open. And he said, that's great, Doc. That's great training. Use it. And I kind of had to stop thinking for a moment, like, is he mocking me? Because I just told him I had a bad day, basically. But you're in training. But when you're learning, you're seeking challenges. Looking at the challenges as kind of a punishment or just a bad day or as setbacks, not appreciating the learning points of anything. I was not quite in that stage. I was not really thinking about it at that moment. I still wanted to bitch and complain about it. It wasn't going to bring back my dignity, that's for damn sure. It wasn't definitely going to teach anybody else a lesson that sometimes when you say to work as a team, you don't try to, take over completely and insist this is the way we go. And that's one of the few times that I've actually relinquished any kind of control to anybody, because I'm not going to know everything all of the time, but I definitely know when I do know something, I definitely want to act on it. But he wasn't mocking me. He was really sincere, because if you've been around Marines, they do so much with so little that they get to thinking outside the box. Sometimes they don't. But point being that he didn't see it as a setback or as a negative thing. He just kind of thought that just going through the briar patch was good training, just being able to go through it, but not understanding that we had the flag that we so badly wanted to get was still straight ahead when I told him to. Well, you have to just keep walking. You don't have to deviate from the plan. But his words, every now and then I'll use it and I'll throw them back at somebody else when they're complaining about something, like, hey, that sounds like great training. Well, what are you learning from it? Are you having a miserable time, but are you getting anything from it? Because you need to walk away with some sort of a lesson learned here. And at the time, I walked away really angry with them. I thought, it's typical Marine, but in a way, that this is how you manage to grow. When you get very little from your environment, but you still have to accomplish this, and you have to find some way to match the two, make them work. Some sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes your objective is very clear. It's right there in front of you. You just go for it, and you just have to make that move. But this just brings me to. I don't know why I was thinking about that anecdote recently, but I remember how many years of my life I spent doing nothing but complaining, and when something didn't go right, I didn't really appreciate the lesson. And so tonight's transformative lesson is I'm not gonna say don't be a bitch. The bitch. Don't complain. Don't be a victim. Actually, I can rename it, stop being the victim. Things that happen to you, that will happen. They're out there, they're in the universe. They will, either you're going to fall into its path, or it's going to catch up with you. But at any rate, you should be always, just really more welcoming for the challenges that come your way. They may slow down what you're doing, but where you want to go. But what are you getting from it? I've recently talked to a friend who, he's also a veteran, and a lot of vets, they go into some industries, some professions, and they hate it. But you gotta make a buck, or that's the attitude, that you gotta make a living and you gotta find something. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna talk about work and jobs tonight, but it's coming. I'm going to address that again. But he was just totally hating it. Like, how long I've been working for this kind of firm doing this. I'm not going to say what it is. And I said, "What, you're not enjoying it?" I said, "No, I hate it. I'm really." He sounded really, really tortured by the fact of being there. Kind of reminds me of the way I felt with my last job. Really hated it. They didn't like me, and I wasn't making a move to get out of there. Sometimes, did I learn something? Yeah, I learned a lot of things, but they were not things that I could take with me most of the time, not professionally, and use them someplace else. So, but in the case of my friend, he says that I asked him, "Are you learning anything?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'm learning a lot," but still hates it. So, rather than complain, the complaining really is just, this is not where I want to play, but I have to play to get something from it. And what we take away from these lessons is that it's in the doing. that we really have to pay attention how we got there, and what we're getting from it, and when do we plan on shifting to the next stage. Doesn't mean that you couldn't stay there even if you hated it. It's a sense of duty, perhaps, or is it a sense that you cannot find a compensation is good, is what you're getting where you are, and you're attached to the money, you're attached to that number, you're attached to the money and the things that money bring to your life, versus are you happy with what you're doing? And just being a victim is a really bad business, because being the victim really, all it does is shines a light on the things that we think we are lacking. And when we're lacking, we actually bring that to the job. We bring that to our relationships. We bring that everywhere we go. It's always a feeling that you're not quite good enough. So if you stay where you are, there's safety and security. I know I keep hammering about that. Safety and security don't exist. We create it. They don't exist on their own. We have to create them. And we create them by bettering ourselves. So in the case of my friend, he's learning whatever it is he's learning in that. I know what the industry is, and I'm pretty sure what he's getting from it at some point in the future will bring him more opportunities. It's going to open up more doors for him, but he just has to be ready to go through those doors, to actually leave where he is and take that knowledge with him, and then be of service someplace else where he knows he's going to be much happier. So so this week, thinking very heavily about just letting go from previous weeks, and actually having the acceptance that whatever it is that you want, you're gonna make sacrifices. Sometimes it's learning, getting stuck in that job you don't like, because you don't do it for the money. Financial, it's okay to stay in a job for money, but it's more okay to stay in it because you're learning something that's going to propel you into the next stage. It's going to make you better. So every day you should strive to find something that you can do, that you can become better, something new, or improve what you have. You always have to look for improvement, opportunities to improve. So improvement, that the meaning that you have to grow. This person naturally was growing, and he was growing someplace else, and he went to another place thinking that was a good move, and then hates it. It could be a management problem, a work environment. It happens a lot. The culture is not something that jives with them. Whatever the problem is, complaining, being victim, and thinking that everything that happens to you that you don't like, that there's no value to it, and that this is happening just because there's some sort of a conspiracy against you. Maybe there is. There is someone after you after all. And people who are paranoid. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean somebody isn't really after you. Talking about an illogical feeling that whatever you're doing, it's not effective. You have to have confidence in what you do. So I talked about believing previously. You have to believe in what it is you know you're supposed to be, and where you're supposed to be, and that's definitely going to facilitate the stage of the transformative lessons. Because when this week's homework should really be everything else you've gotten from me, but you should also add not complaining. And I found myself in recent months complaining less and less. I mean, there's a lot of little challenges. So yeah, I'm being tasked in many ways, unexpected ways. But on the same token, I have to be really, really thankful that I have the opportunity, because it hasn't yet to kill me. The changes that I've gone through, even in my life, they haven't killed me yet. So complaining is something that needs to take a back seat. So with the complaining can go to your dissatisfaction phase, which is I talked about in the very beginning. And when you're dissatisfied, that's a recognition that you have to change. You can't change the environment. You can move from the environment. You can try to modify it in some way, or you can improve yourself so that you fit into that environment. It's pretty clear cut here. Sorry, it's a very dry day. And complaining and being a victim won't get you anywhere. Usually, like, the complainer at work, at your job, that's the person, perhaps it's the squeaky wheel. That actually two different there's two different. It's so much more different than the complainer. Someone who's constantly advocating for their worth are the people who are clearly aware of what their worth is. That they're seeking opportunity. They're voicing maybe management or somebody else. They're going out. They're improving themselves, but they want everybody else to know that they have more to offer. But a person who complains, in contrast, is someone who he probably could have the potential to be bigger and better, but they're not taking the shot. I've known people who have just complaining that they want to make 10,000 more a year. They're looking at that number, but they refuse to take more assignments at work. They also refuse to take training. It's not mandatory. Just saying the kind of training that if you did it on your own, when you have some quiet time, or you're doing admin, or there's maybe take a night shift, for whatever line of work you're in. It's some time where one thing that you're doing when it's quiet, you're not doing work, is plugging away at your studies. And that's the sacrifice that I was talking about, is that you have to make that effort. It's not going to come to you. It may come to you and bounce right off and go to the next person who is indeed willing to do the things you won't do. So getting away from being the complainer and the victim, that everything that's not happening the way I want it is everybody else's fault, that has to go away. And you'll be a whole lot happier when you see about the things that you've accomplished and everything. You can find out this week, whatever you are, just when you go to work. I mean, I know it's Monday and you still have another 4 days, and you're probably thinking, what is it about complaining? I don't complain. Yeah, you probably do complain. There's some things you may be saying or thinking, even when you don't voice them outwardly, that can still be holding you back. It's holding you back, and I mean by that, holding back your growth. And like the people that were, the two women who were crying and sobbing like little kids, you just went through a lot, but they don't understand why. I understood what happened, but I'm not telling anybody, because that's just going to add more to that suffering. But even I have some internal suffering, because I knew the way, and to play under the rules and a consensus, sometimes you just have to do away with what you know. I mean, I didn't think at the time it was going to be dangerous, but just being steered away from what seems right, it is disturbing. And not distraught like it was a big emergency. It was, so I lost my loved one. Someone was injured. Somebody could have been injured. That's another angle to the story. But none of these things came up to this person's mind. They got fixated on this is got to be the way, and we've gone this way, and we can't break up the group. So make yourself better. This person was not someone who was striving to make himself better. He just kind of winged it. He was really winging it. And winging it is not. You can get through life like that, but what kind of happiness are you going to get from it? If you're going to be the complainer, then that means you have to take more actions. And I talked about stepping into the role. Was it last week? Maybe before last. Step into the role. Just be the person. Just do the thing do the things so you can become the thing. And so complaining will actually delay you arriving at that point in your life. And it's actually pretty sad, because you'll be caught into that anger, because complaining is anger. It's a form of anger. It's frustration. It's not anything else. complaining. You said, I don't like this, so what are you doing about it? I can walk away and start over. I don't like this. I can change this. I can change me. I can talk to other people. I can negotiate terms. What am I going to do? What are you going to do? And so I figured I'd share that little story. It is funny now. Like I said, I'm glad that I never had to deploy with them, in any of these people and into a war zone. I've been to a couple of them. And I'm just saying that when you practice for your real life role, you can't be bogged down by complaining. It just didn't work out. So what? You move. You keep moving. And that's really the lesson. So if you're not playing the victim, congratulations. That's a really wise move. You should be the complete opposite of I don't complain. I make suggestions. I try to be useful. I try to turn that negative, whatever outcome it is, on its head. Just flip it and figure out a way to make something work, or maybe derive something good or better from whatever is happening. May not be the original outcome you were looking for, but maybe something else. It's trying to teach you to look and pay attention to something else that's happening that it is exactly where you need to be. Sometimes we get fixated ourselves and thinking that where we're going is exactly where we need to go, and sometimes we get derailed, and sometimes that derailment is what we need. So I'm not saying I want to go through another climb down some mountain through a briar patch, get punctured on every way possible. But if I can find a better way to see the briar patch way ahead and avoid having to take that route, then that's what I'll do. Not get myself to the briar patch and then realize this is the only I can start over, or I can take the bad alternative, because that's all that's left. So, kind of a short podcast today. So this week, try not, because like I said, it's a type of anger. Just the victim attitude is, the world's against me, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, unless you really have reasons to be paranoid, try that for a few days and add it to the other lessons you've listened to here. And I had a very interesting 8 weeks, 8 days with the swimming. This challenge, I did it in 8 days. That's to raise money for the American Cancer Society. I did not expect to swim the 15 miles completed in 8 days. I was really hauling. You know what? With that one, I was pretty exhausted over the weekend. I did not want to go back in the water on Friday to do 15 miles in 15 days. I did it in 8 when I broke down into the average daily mileage. It breaks down into not a whole lot of swimming. So I had to kind of cram the last 4+ miles and the last day because I wanted to take a break. And I still got the rest of the month. So you've seen my YouTube channel. I posted a video about me finishing the at least the 15 miles. I could swim more if I get more pledges. I'd like to be able to raise money for this great cause. So I've only got a couple of donations, but I'm hopeful. I'm sure somebody will get around to donate it. I'm waiting. So donations are still accepted through my Facebook page until the 30th of July, come midnight. And then maybe next month is another swimming challenge. I think I may do it. Depends what my schedule is like in August. I don't know how I'm going to fit some travel into this equation, but I'll figure something out. I'm looking at some locations. It's not going to be a cruise. Not doing cruises for a little bit, but I got some locations here in the States that I'd like to check out. Maybe another nice another road trip is necessary. I really think so. But don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's In the Pursuit of Joy podcast on the road, and that way you can get notifications every time I go someplace. I just uploaded my review of the, a quick tour of the Crown Princess ship uh, from my Alaskan cruise last month, and it took me a little while to splice that together. It's a lot of footage. It's like 40 minutes long, but I enjoyed it. So we'll see. But I'm not going to do another cruise. Not this summer. No. I think the United States has a lot to offer and adventure. So I'll probably stay more homebound and just go to different states and find neat places to do stuff in. You're welcome to come with me. And this is, I'm finishing up tonight pretty early. I'm fully rested. It's Monday, and Friday through Saturday and Sunday, all I did was veg, and I worked on some writing. But I have to be able to start working out again. I'm going to have a blog come out pretty soon on Substack, and that's going to be about my swimming experience. So that's in the works. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you went to, if you have subscribed to my YouTube channel, I have a section. It's called Working from the Goal, and those videos are basically people are working on something, and like I said before, you step into the role directly and start doing the thing you want to be. So I've been hanging out with some people that are into boxing. I have a friend in particular who took up boxing about a year ago, and she's doing pretty well. And I found myself kind of following them a little bit. And Saturday night's fights were really good. And I had one of her friends from the local gym who was fighting that night. And I got a little bit of footage there. I got some more female fighters that put them up in front. Usually they're left for the last of the fighting. The females, they don't usually the headline, but they got a couple of female fights there before I left for the night. That was pretty good and pretty impressive. So this is one place where you definitely know there's no complainers. You can't play victim there. It's either you step into the role and then you do the thing you've practiced and you put in the time to build yourself. Then that's what you do. But there's something that I keep hearing before I let you go during these fights is that the coaches and people that know the fighters in the ring, they keep screaming at them when you land, when you do something good, you did well, like you land a punch, something's coming because it's going to happen. But I keep hearing these people saying in the audience, do it again. Do it again. And that means, that's the opposite of don't admire your work. It means if you are successful with that step, keep at it. Keep at it. You landed that one punch, you got to keep going. You got to put energy, you got to follow through. I like to study athletes because goal setting is something that's so tangible in how athletes work, how they structure who they really want to be and how. And these are really great lessons for just the person people who are not into athletics in any way. But you can derive some of these same lessons. But you just have to observe fighters working in their craft very, very closely, so you can learn when the coach is telling you don't admire your own work. You can't smell the roses. You landed one punch. You have to continue doing the things that got you there, the positive things. So if you've always been trained, you got the mind conditioning, you should be able to follow through. So whatever it is you're doing that's bringing you that joy, is bringing you satisfaction, you have to keep doing it. You can't just fall into some old bad habit or just create something out of nowhere that it doesn't go with what your plan is. Then you're going to find yourself, again, the topic is tonight's podcast, you're going to find yourself bitching and moaning about how things didn't turn out right. You can't win everything, but what I'm saying is you can definitely advance to the next level in your development if you always practice doing that positive thing over and over and over again. Just like the boxers. I don't tell myself that mantra, and I don't use those words in particular when I go in the water. I was so exhausted mentally, and my body is like, "Are you kidding me? You're getting up again?" Like, yeah, I gotta go. It was an 80-mile drive, just to let you know. Anyone practices anything that they want to get into, there's got to be a sacrifice, not just the body and the mind, but you got to drive. But for me, it's 80 miles right now to where my pool is, where I'm currently staying. The local pools are great, but they have other programs, and they're not allowing lap swimming until next month. So if I wanted to complete the challenge, I had to get in my car and I had to make that 80-mile trip over and over, and I have to deal with the physical factor that I get stiff really quickly. So I like moving a lot, and my muscles just don't like sitting still, and that's the worst thing. You gotta keep moving. So it's just telling the body, look, you gotta do this. I'm not leaving this pool until you give me the 2 miles. Give me 1,000 yards. Give me the next 1,000 yards. And I was doing 1,000 yards at a time. And I played a game. I would do hundreds for like 15 times. And then on the 16th time, I said, I'm so bored with it. So I had to feed my mind reasons to want to achieve the next stage. The next stage is just going for that number. Go for that number. So do it again. Figure out a mantra that you can tell yourself, that one thing that makes you successful, where you're not in the complaining or victim mode in your mind. Do it over and over. Do the one thing that makes you successful, makes the thing that brings that your objective to fruition. And as long as you keep practicing the things that other people won't do, you'll get where you want to go. You'll be the one person that you want to be. And with that, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a fantastic week. Let's see what kind of trouble I can get into in the pool. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. Also here, if you're just stopping by for the first time, this is In the Pursuit of Joy podcast. Anything that I can do to be of service, let me know. Just write me a note or send me a message. Or you just go to my YouTube page or my Facebook page. They're all linked in my YouTube main business page. If you just want to kind of rework or restructure a problem to a goal setting, I'll be happy to help. That's what I'm here for. And I know it brings me joy. And yep, I did my 15 miles. That brought me a lot of joy, not having to swim every day. I got to get back in the pool soon. So have a blessed week. And I will see you next Monday night. See ya.